The day I learned my father had left everything to my sister. I was standing in the lawyer's office, holding a cup of cheap coffee that had gone cold in my hand. The room was quiet except for the sound of the envelope being opened. The will was clear. The house. To Clara. The retirement fund? Clara. His vintage Camaro? Clara. There wasn't a single mention of me, his firstborn, the one who took care of him through 3 hospital stays, who skipped college to help after his heart surgery. My hands were shaking. The lawyer glanced up awkwardly, waiting for me to say something. But I couldn't.
My voice was gone.
My chest felt like someone had pressed a fist against it and just kept pushing. Clara turned to me, smirking, and said, "I guess he always knew who the favorite was." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not with rage, but with clarity. Have you ever realized that no matter what you did, you were never going to be enough for your own family? Tell me in the comments if you've ever been the forgotten child. I see you. I am you. Growing up in Asheville, North Carolina, I used to think my dad, Robert, was the strongest man in the world. He was the kind of dad who could carry 2 bikes on one shoulder, flip pancakes with a grin, and still make it to every PTA meeting. Well, at least mine, at first. He called me Kiddo. Always Kiddo. Never Emily. And that nickname made me feel like his little sidekick. When I was 6, I remember he built me a treehouse. It wasn't perfect. The steps were crooked, and the floor creaked when you sat too long. But, to me, it was magic. I'd sit up there with my stuffed animals and write fake grocery lists just like I'd seen my mom do. And every Friday night, he'd say, "All right, kiddo, get in the truck. Ice cream and a horror movie. Dad's orders." I'd sit shotgun, feet dangling, believing he was my world, that I was his too. Then came Clara. She was born when I was 10. I remember the night Mom came home from the hospital. Dad was glowing. He held Clara like she was made of glass, kissed her head, and whispered, "My little princess is finally here." It was the first time he didn't call me kiddo that day. I noticed. It stung just a little. Still, I told myself, she's a baby. Of course, she needs more attention. I was the older one. I was the helper. When Clara cried, I rocked her. When she colored on the walls, I took the blame. When she spilled juice on Dad's new recliner, I cleaned it up. I was always there, the quiet fixer. Every birthday party, I was the one holding the camera while Dad helped Clara blow out her candles. I told myself it didn't matter. As long as he smiled at me later. As long as he said thank you. But those thank yous got fewer over the years. In high school, I got accepted into UNC Chapel Hill. Full ride. Honors program. I ran home holding the envelope, beaming. I thought Dad would cry with pride. He didn't. He barely looked up from the football game. He said, "Well, that's great, but who's gonna watch Clara after school then?" So I deferred.
Told everyone it was my choice.
Worked at a local diner. Took night classes online. Helped Clara with homework. Picked her up from drama club. Even paid for her senior prom dress from my own paycheck. She was the star. The dreamer. The beautiful one.
Me?
I was the background music. Still, I never complained. I told myself that one day he'd see. One day he'd realize I held this family together like duct tape on a cracked wall. I remember once, when I was 27, I got into a car accident. Nothing major, just a sprained wrist and some bruised ribs. I called Dad from the hospital bed. Told him I was okay, but shaken. He said, "Can you call back in the morning? Clara's having boyfriend trouble." I stared at the phone like it had slapped me. Even then, I didn't let go of him. I still sent Father's Day cards. Still invited him to dinners. Still saved the first slice of pie just for him. Because deep down, every forgotten birthday, every canceled plan, every overlooked milestone, I still hoped. I still believed that maybe, just maybe, he'd turn around one day and say, "Kiddo, I'm proud of you. I see you." I didn't know. The only thing he saw was Clara. Always Clara. There's this thing that happens when you're always the one who gives. You start measuring your worth by how much others need you. That's how I lived. Quietly useful. Never in the way. But over time, little things started stacking. And little things? They can drown you faster than you think. Thanksgiving 2 years ago was when I noticed it wasn't just indifference. It was hierarchy. Clara arrived late, of course. She never helped cook. She floated in with wine, dressed like she was attending a magazine shoot, her laugh loud, her perfume louder. Dad greeted her like royalty. "There's my girl," he boomed, hugging her like she'd just returned from war.
Me?
I was already 3 hours deep into basting, peeling, setting the table. He didn't even say hi. Just asked if I'd remembered the cranberry sauce, Clara's favorite. I told myself not to mind. Again. But when we sat down, and he asked Clara to say grace, I froze. I'd led grace since I was 12. She smiled and fumbled through it, giggling halfway through, ending it with, "And bless the turkey, may it not be dry." He laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. My mashed potatoes suddenly tasted like paste. I remember trying to talk to him once, months later. I said, "Dad, sometimes I feel like you, I don't know, see Clara more than me." He looked at me and said, "I swear to God." "Oh, come on, Emily. Don't be so sensitive. You've always been the strong one."
Strong.
The word people throw at you when they don't want to take care of you. Then came Clara's third business idea. A wellness spa in downtown Charlotte. She needed capital. I remember sitting across from Dad in the sunroom, sipping coffee, as he casually mentioned, "I gave Clara the down payment last week. She's got real vision. She's going places." I blinked. "How much did you give her?" "Oh, about $80,000. My mug nearly slipped from my hand. "Dad, you told me there wasn't enough left to help me refinance the house." He shrugged. "You're smart. You'll figure it out. Clara's different. She needs someone to believe in her." I didn't answer. My silence wasn't forgiveness. It was grief. And suddenly, memories started bubbling up like ghosts. Like the time I came second in a statewide writing competition, and Dad said, "Clara's dance recital is the same day. Let's not make a big deal about this." Or the time I got the flu and stayed in bed for 2 days, and he still asked me to make Clara's lunch for school. I had never wanted a crown. Just eye contact. Just a thank you. Just once. One night, I saw Clara had posted a photo with Dad on Instagram. Caption: "Forever Daddy's little girl. Grateful for everything you've given me." And there he was, smiling, holding a champagne glass, arm around her like she was his only child. I stared at the screen until it blurred. I hadn't even gotten a text from him that week. Around this time, a distant cousin, Aunt Denise, pulled me aside at a family gathering. "I heard Robert made Clara the executor of his estate," she said quietly. "He's really trusting her, huh?" My throat tightened. "He what?" Denise blinked. "Oh, you didn't know?" I smiled. That fake kind of smile that holds back a scream.
No.
I didn't. But now I did. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind spun like a dryer full of wet clothes. Heavy, loud, relentless. Something inside me was starting to crack, like glass under pressure. I didn't want his money. I didn't want his house. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted justice. I didn't know it yet, but something was coming. And when it did, I would no longer be the quiet one. It was a Wednesday morning when I got the call. Dad had passed away in his sleep. Cardiac arrest.
Peaceful, they said.
I stood in the break room at work, still holding my coffee, the sound of the nurse's voice echoing in my ear. It was surreal. Like my brain couldn't register the words fast enough. "We tried contacting Clara first, but couldn't reach her. Your number was next on file." Of course it was. Even in death, I was second choice. The days that followed were a blur. Funeral arrangements, calls to relatives, clearing out the house. Clara insisted on handling the obituary. She wrote, "Beloved father of Clara James, pillar of strength and laughter." I read it twice. My name wasn't in it. Not once. I called her. "Clara, I'm not even mentioned in the obituary." She replied flatly. It was short notice. "Don't take it personally. You know how Dad liked things simple." Simple. Right. 1 week later, Clara and I sat across from Dad's lawyer, Mr. Jenkins. A man in his late 60s, gray suit, horn-rimmed glasses, stiff as an ironing board. He cleared his throat, adjusted his papers, and looked at us with that awkward sympathy reserved for uncomfortable family dynamics. He opened the file. This is the last will and testament of Robert James, dated October 15th, last year. I leaned in slightly, hopeful. Dad and I had talked that month. We'd even had coffee together. Maybe he remembered that, maybe he saw me again. He began reading. To my beloved daughter Clara James, I leave the entirety of my estate, including the house, car, savings, and personal possessions. My ears rang. To my daughter Emily James, my heart stopped. Finally, no provision is made at this time. That was it. That single line.
Cold.
Legal. Final. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of them. Clara tilted her head, lips pressed together in a smug little expression. I barely heard her say, "He always said I reminded him of Mom. You were more like him."
Distant.
I stood up, walked out, didn't say a word. The hallway outside the office smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner. I pressed my back to the wall and slid down to the floor. Everything inside me was unraveling. Years of be the bigger person collapsing in one breath. I wasn't angry yet. I was erased. That night, I went back to the house. Clara had already started moving furniture into her U-Haul. I walked into the study, the room Dad always locked. I found a photo album tucked inside the bottom drawer. Every page was Clara. Clara at Disneyland. Clara in her recital tutu. Clara blowing out candles. I finally reached the last page.
A single photo of me.
I was 9, holding a spelling bee trophy, smiling wide. Scrawled underneath in my dad's handwriting. Emily, always focused. That was the caption. Not my champion. Not so proud. Just focused. I closed the album. My hands trembled. I felt like a stranger in a museum built for someone else. A week later, I got a call from Dad's accountant, Mr. Palmer. "Hi, Emily. I wanted to inform you that Robert's life insurance beneficiary was also updated last fall. Everything goes to Clara." I swallowed hard. Was I ever listed? He paused.
Yes.
You were for most of the past 2 decades. I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the wall. Even after death, I had to learn that I was once enough, and then wasn't. I found a letter I had written Dad a few years ago, but never mailed.
It read,
"Dear Dad, I don't need your money. I just want to matter.
to be seen.
I want you to say you're proud of me. Not because I earned it, but because you love me. Is that too much?" I held the letter over the fireplace that night, watched the flames eat every word. If he didn't see me when he was alive, then I was done waiting for validation from a ghost. 3 days after the will was read, Clara called me. She was cheerful. Sickeningly cheerful. "Hey sis, just wanted to let you know I've started redecorating the house. You left your piano books in the study. I can toss them unless you want to swing by and grab them." My fingers curled around the phone. The piano books she never touched, the ones Dad used to make me play every Sunday after church. I took a deep breath. "I'll be there in an hour." I walked through the front door like a visitor. The house smelled like fresh paint and lavender candles, Clara's favorites. My memories had been scrubbed out like old wallpaper. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, sipping from a wine glass. "Emily," she said like we were old friends. "I thought you might ghost me again." I didn't respond. I reached into my purse, pulled out a manila envelope, and slid it onto the counter. "What's this?" she asked, eyeing it. "A purchase agreement," I said. "You're selling your dignity now." She laughed. I stared at her.
No.
"I'm buying Dad's first house. The one in Asheville. The deed transferred to me this morning." Her smile faltered. "That place? It's practically falling apart." I nodded. "Good. I want to rebuild something that wasn't poisoned by favoritism." She scoffed. "Why do you even care about any of this? You always acted like you didn't need him." And I finally let the words fall out. Because I did need him. And he never came. He never showed up. But I did, for both of you. Every time. And now I'm done. I picked up the photo from the shelf. Dad holding Clara at her graduation. Me in the background, blurry, mid-step. I slipped it into my coat pocket. That night, I drove back to Asheville.
Took the long way.
Windows down. I lit a small fire pit in the backyard of the old house. Pulled the photo out. Held it a moment. Then dropped it into the flames. Let it curl. Let it blacken. Let it go. The next morning, I made a phone call I had avoided for months. A local women's shelter.
Hi, I said.
I'd like to volunteer. I have a house that needs life, and I think I need people who know how to start over. The woman on the line, her name was Linda, said, "We'd love to have you. It sounds like you're starting something special." And for the first time in years, I felt like my voice had weight. Not out of obligation, but out of choice. Clara texted me a week later. "You're really turning that place into some charity project?" I replied, "I'm turning it into something Dad never gave us, equity." She never responded. I didn't get an apology. I didn't get closure. But I got something better. I got my power back. People think that once you confront the person who hurt you, the pain vanishes. But what they don't tell you is how quiet the world becomes afterward. No more calls from Clara. No group texts about holiday dinners. No check-ins from the cousins who always smiled tight-lipped at family parties. Just silence. But it wasn't the kind that brings peace. It was the kind that echoes. A month passed. Then two. No one reached out. No invitations. I heard through a friend that Clara had told everyone I lashed out and couldn't handle Dad's final wishes. I was labeled the bitter one. The dramatic one. The one who always wanted more. Funny thing is, all I ever wanted was fairness. One night, I sat alone in the kitchen of the Asheville house. The lights were dim. The wind pressed against the windows like a stranger trying to get in. I started cleaning out the garage. Found boxes with old Christmas ornaments, yearbooks, newspaper clippings. In one box, tucked between Dad's fishing gear and an old rotary phone, I found my second-grade report card. He had written on the back, "Emily is going to change the world." I stared at that sentence, then laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I realized even he had once seen something in me. Before he chose to forget. Mrs. Carter, our old neighbor, showed up one day with lemon bars. "I heard what happened," she said, eyes soft. "Your dad loved you, honey. He just didn't always show it the right way." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't have it in me to rewrite the story anymore. But moments like that, tiny flickers of human warmth, they were the stitches in the ripped fabric. I wasn't just grieving Dad. I was grieving the fantasy of who I thought he was. The protector.
The equal.
The man who built me a treehouse and promised never to let me fall. But he did let me fall. Over and over again. And the worst part? I let myself believe it was my job to climb back up silently each time. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror one morning. No makeup. Hair messy. Wearing a hoodie from high school. I looked myself straight in the eyes and whispered, "You were never hard to love. They just never learned how to love you properly." And I believed it. Maybe for the first time. Grief isn't a straight road. Some days I felt like I was moving forward. Other days, I found myself staring at the front porch steps, expecting Dad's truck to pull into the driveway like it used to. But healing? It doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it's in the little things. Like the first morning I woke up without checking Clara's Instagram. Like the day I laughed, genuinely laughed, because I accidentally spilled flour everywhere while baking for the shelter. I began renovating the old Asheville house. Not to erase the past, but to give it a new chapter. I painted the walls light yellow. Hum wind chimes on the back porch. I replaced the rusty screen door Dad always meant to fix. And, with the help of Linda from the shelter, we turned the downstairs guest room into a transitional space for women starting over. One of the first guests was Maria, a mom of two who left an abusive marriage. She hugged me the day she moved in. Said, "I never thought someone like you would open their home to someone like me." I smiled and replied, I know what it's like to be invisible. No one should have to feel that way again. Funny how when you make space in your life for new beginnings, the right people show up. My old friend Tyler, the guy who used to sit next to me in AP English, came by to help with plumbing one weekend. We hadn't talked in years. He brought tools, pizza, and sarcasm. By the end of the week, we were binge-watching documentaries on the couch, arguing about whose takeout choice was better. He became part of my new routine, my new family. No pressure, no judgment, just presence. I finally started therapy. Real therapy. The kind where you talk about childhood memories you swore didn't affect you. Where your voice trembles when you say things like, I just wanted him to say he loved me without conditions. And slowly, I stopped blaming myself. I stopped thinking I was the problem. Stopped apologizing for needing care. I started a blog. At first, it was just journal entries. Then women from around the country started emailing me. Daughters.
Sisters.
Forgotten ones. One wrote, You told my story and you didn't even know me. Thank you for giving us a voice. And I realized this pain, this story, wasn't just mine. It was ours. So I created a small foundation. We call it The Unchosen Ones. It helps women estranged from their families find housing, therapy, and most importantly, community. One night, I sat on the back porch of the Asheville house. The stars were out. The wind was soft. The world, for once, was quiet in a good way. And I whispered to the night sky, I may not have been your favorite, Dad, but I became someone I'm proud of. And that's more than enough for me. If you're still listening, thank you. Because this story wasn't just mine. It might be yours too. Maybe you were the sibling who stayed silent. The daughter who always showed up and was never truly seen. The one who gave everything and got crumbs in return. I want you to know something I wish someone had told me years ago. You are not unlovable because they couldn't love you properly. You are not invisible because they chose to look away. And you are not wrong for wanting more. Family isn't about blood. It's about effort. It's about who claps for you when you're not in the room, who says your name with pride, who makes you feel like you matter without having to prove yourself over and over. If you've ever been the forgotten child, the quiet one, the reliable one who no one ever checked on, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. You never know who needs to hear your truth to feel less alone today. And if this resonated with you, comment, and share this with someone who needs to reclaim their power too. Because we're not here to stay small anymore. We're here to be seen. You don't need permission to heal. You just need to begin. And you already have. I'm proud of you,